We are now moving to the closing elements of this debate. So I look to David Rothkopf to close the case for the proposition of the motion. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to see some of you are remaining here for the conclusion of this discussion. I'm from a faraway place called New Jersey, and we always find it enchanting to come here to England because of your charm and your sense of irony. And for me to stand here in the Oxford Union to discuss whether or not we should welcome China as a power among global powers is really rich with irony. Here is a country that bears a lot of parallels, as the prior speaker indicated, with the great British Empire that grew up in large part due to the mines produced in this university. And when you look at the two situations, you see one was a power that was controlled by an elite that did not empower all of its people, that exploited the countries that it traded with, that waged wars often based on racism, that sought to create global alliances to serve its very narrow national interests, and that imposed its cultural views on the world, and the other country was China. But the question here is whether we should welcome China, and I believe there are two reasons to welcome China onto the international stage, one of which is justice, and the other is self-interest. The reason that I say justice is important is, of course, there are 1.371 billion people in China. And for us to sit here and say we should not welcome the most populous nation in the world to the global stage would be unjust. For us to suggest that China is exclusively its government, even though that government is extremely powerful, is unjust. We are hearing Chinese voices in this debate. Chinese companies, private sector companies, control the majority of the Chinese economy. And the benefit of Chinese engagement has elevated hundreds of millions of Chinese from poverty, and that is just. And if we believe in democracy, then we must believe that the largest group of people on earth has to have a voice in the global debate. Furthermore, we must set a standard for China that it, yes?
If we truly believe in democracy, we welcome the foreign policy of the state which has propped up anti-democratic regimes across all of Africa to the point where other international efforts, such as South Africa's human rights foreign policy, had to be abandoned because no one was listening to them because they could go and get easy deals with China.
Well, thank you. And I enjoyed at the dinner that we had here raising a glass to the Queen at the end. And we'll go a step further and go to the point that I was about to make, which is that when we are dealing in terms of justice, let us ask by what criteria we have welcomed other states onto the global stage, and which of those states was perfect. Was it the United Kingdom? Was it the United States of America, which was created on the basis of genocide and slavery? Was it Germany? Has it been Russia? Which of the states that now hold a seat at the global table has gotten to that seat without blood on its hands? What we do, yes, one of those states didn't have blood on its hands.
So, given that the motion is basically about overseas impacts of China in foreign countries, surely it's possible to say, on our side as well, that we would really want to negotiate and welcome China, but simply find certain things that it does regrettable, just as we find the colonial history of Britain deeply troubling without rejecting it.
You're absolutely right, and that is exactly how we embrace countries onto the global stage. We do not say we welcome them wholesale. We do not say we accept all of their aspects. We say we take them, warts and all. We seek to negotiate away the warts and we seek to take advantage of those things where they can lend a hand and make the world a better place. And that then gets me to the next point, and I think the most important point, because it's, should we welcome them? And I would like to suggest that if we take a look at the issues that are most important to us, and we say, how do we solve those issues without China? We come to the conclusion that it is not only in our self-interest to welcome them, but that we have no choice but to welcome them. Today, as the President of the United States stepped away from global climate accords, which are perhaps the biggest issue in the world, the Premier of China said, we will lead, and that's a good thing. We could not address the issue of climate without China, which is the #1 or #2 producer of wind and solar and has invested more in green energy than every country in the world in the past decade. We could not save our global environment without China. We cannot solve problems like global economic problems without the #1 economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity, or the #2 economy in nominal terms. We cannot solve global trade problems without the country that is the #1 trading partner of more countries in the world than any other country. And when we say there are global trade terms that are damaging, we have to ask ourselves, why are so many countries choosing to make China their #1 trading partner? Are they, in fact, defective in their choices? We cannot solve problems like the Iran nuclear issue, or the Syria issue, or the issue of stability in Africa, or the issue of stability in North Korea without Chinese involvement. So if we are going to ask, should we welcome them onto the stage, I think we must ask before that, do we really have a choice? If we are going to act in our interests, they are essential on a security basis, on an economic basis, on a climate basis, and on the basis of justice. And that's why I would hope that you would join me in supporting the proposition that we should welcome China into the global community.